So I finally got around to beating Gears of War last night, and what you're about to witness is from a couple of nights ago, one of the most frustrating moments I've had in a game in a very long time. Now, it's not uncommon to run into areas of a game that stump you, slow you down, boss fights that are hard to beat. But what made this experience so painful and really a large section of the game, I mean, this is just one section that I'm showing you. I could have shown you many others where this AI partner, Dom, he's a goddamn idiot. I mean, he's dumber than a bag of rocks. And so I know that I could have gotten a co-op partner. It would have made life a whole lot easier. Years ago, actually, whenever this game first came out, that's how I beat it. I originally beat it playing through on co-op with the ex-wife. That was before I realized she was into co-op with other people outside of video games, so I had to quit that. But this is the first time that I'm playing this game solo. And to be fair, I do believe I read where they updated the graphics, remastered the game, but they left the AI code the same from years ago, which I wish they would have updated it. But it did get me thinking about artificial intelligence and AI. And there was actually a pretty lengthy article that I read that came out today on this very subject. And we're always talking about how we want games to be innovative, we want them to bring something new to the table. We bicker about things like resolution and borrowing gameplay elements from different games. But one thing that we don't talk a whole lot about, it seems, is artificial intelligence or artificial unintelligence. So, when we start talking about artificial intelligence, we usually think of, our AI teammates in game, the enemy, how they respond and everything. But there's actually a lot of areas in games that AI is being used for. There's talk that some games in the future are going to collect data from the player, then create content on the go to fit that player style. So instead of having a developer, try to create a DLC pack or something and release it, you could have content that's based on your player style. Or you could have games in the future with better algorithms for speech and written language. So think of something like a Cortana in a game like Mass Effect or Skyrim, where instead of having just very pre-selected options for talking and selecting what you want to say, you could just create the experience that you want to create based on however it is that you want to react. And so the computer could recognize that and then draw up something to respond with it. So that would be pretty cool. And there's a ton of companies that are actually working on artificial intelligence. And I'm not just talking about gaming here. We're talking about a race towards singularity. The point where machines are going to start learning on their own and become smarter and more powerful without the help of anybody programming it in. And already you've got companies like Microsoft and Google that have computers that are teaching themselves, literally. They can scour the net, and without being told, for instance, about certain animals or objects, they can go read about these objects, see related pictures to it, and then learn that information. So for instance, they could learn about every species of monkeys. They could actually learn to pick out a certain kind of monkey, and they may not have ever been told about what a monkey even is or anything about it. So they learn that by themselves. And so a lot of people are really excited about this. A lot of people are also really frightened about it. And, that's a video for another day if you want to. But, so we already have machines that are learning. And so the question is, why isn't this technology being used in games? And in some cases it is. There's companies that are definitely exploring it. Microsoft's Forza, you've got the Drivatars. That is analyzing how you race in real life. And then whenever you're not even racing in real life, you're offline, your friends could be racing against you. And so they're racing against AI that is mimicking how you actually drive. And last night I was actually in a party and I was laughing because a friend in the party chat was playing Forza 6 and he was racing against my avatar or Drivatar, and he was talking about how dirty it was. He was trying to spin him out and everything. So, according to a lot of developers, though, it's really hard to implement this type of technology that learns in most games, because you'll come to a point where if it's really trying to mimic things, if it's really learning how people win at video games, you're going to come to a point where it's just unbalanced. And so the computer's always going to win because it's going to know how to play the smartest, how to do things the best way. It's going to learn all the tricks of the trade, and it's just going to destroy you in games. So there actually is a point to developers trying to balance these games in order to try to achieve the results that they're wanting for a game to be fun. And so sometimes they just have to create these components to be dumb. And so you might have an AI that is trying to learn and does become better, but then it becomes so good that you have to tell it to unlearn something and to remove certain data from its information. And I mean, at that point, you've kind of defeated the purpose. So maybe there's an in-between there that they still need to figure out. So it is a balancing act. And right now, the way that most AI works, like if you watch videos on how programming in games is set up, you know, there's usually an imaginary line that you can't see in game, but once you cross that in game, then that's whenever the enemies start to appear, and then the enemies have cone vision, so that if you're within that cone, they'll begin to fire on you, and then based on the difficulty level that you have it set to, then they'll miss so many percentage of their shots and so forth. So honestly, I imagine that it's pretty difficult to find the right balancing act for designing a game. So I certainly sympathize with some developers. I'm sure that it's difficult to make a game easy enough so that all the casuals can go through and enjoy the game, or make it difficult enough for people who want a challenge to go through and still feel like they're getting a good challenge without just being decimated. But I do hope that artificial intelligence is something that is expanded upon this generation. And we are seeing some things like the games, like still one of the best things that I've seen in a game, I think, this gen was Shadow of Mordor, and how you could do certain things in the game and it recognizes that. And I mean, it wasn't the most complex of items in games, but it was something new that you don't see very often. And I think that's just, you know, one little area of artificial intelligence, of the game knowing what you've done and then responding to that. And so, and even how, you know, the enemies were killed, it remembered all that information. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I do hope that that is one area that does continue to move into the next gen territory. But either way, Gears of War Ultimate, Dom is an idiot. And he's the worst teammate I think I've ever had. So anyway, if you want to read this article, links down in the description box. That does it for me, The Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Are you listening? Damn.